whether you have awakened your Kundalini intentionally or spontaneously, it is important to realize that that simple experiencing, physical experience of energy is simply the beginning of the journey itself. And though there are different steps to fully awakening and integrating the Kundalini into your physical experience, there is one step that is the most important one of them all. The awakening of the Kundalini energy through your body is simply the beginning of an actual Kundalini awakening. There are several steps that are included in this process. And when we truly go through a Kundalini transformation, the change in and of itself is so powerful. But it also takes a little bit of time. Though some have experienced spontaneous Kundalini awakening, or the awakening and the energy moving through them, which sometimes can be extremely blissful, but at other times for others it can be extremely difficult. It is really this energy that is working through your resistance. Now, whether your experience has been blissful or not, there's one particular step of Kundalini awakening that is most important than them all. This step is the energy moving through your sacral chakra, or your second chakra, your second energy center, or simply your womb. Why is it so? Well, in your second chakra, we are in our most guttural, so to speak, sense of who we are, in our most basic sense of who we are. Now, some might say, well, that is our root chakra, the basic root chakra. Yes, the basic root chakra keeps us grounded to the physical reality. But as we move to the second chakra, the womb, we all have come from a womb, at least so far in our human existence. And because of it is because the womb is where the soul first comes in. Now, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. The womb for all genders is the birth of our psyche. So symbolically speaking, when we go through the process of this powerful energy moving through the womb, it is moving through our unconscious. And why this is important is because so much of ourselves is actually happening in the unconscious, the subconscious. So for example, most of your thinking, though you might realize, you might think it's in the conscious part of you, it's actually a subconscious part of you. So what happens is we are mostly living so subconsciously, and most of our subconscious was programmed when we were very young, so we don't even know what's in there. So sometimes when we go through this deep experience of going through our subconscious, it can be extremely frightening because there's so much going on in there, deep in there. It's the darkest sides of us. So oftentimes, if we want to skip this step and we just want to say, well, I just want to get to the blissful stuff, well, you could get to the blissful stuff, but you will notice that no matter how much bliss you experience, you actually end up kind of falling back on this darker side of you, and you're working hard to escape it instead of facing it. There have been a lot of different mythologies throughout human history to explain what this process was. There was the mythology of Horus, where he goes into the underworld. And when he goes there, he loses one of his eyes. And that was symbolic that when we go deep into this side of us, when the Kundalini moves to this part of us into the unconscious, we lose an old side of us. And what the old side of us is truly the ego, because it's really identified with it. It is in a way how it sort of goes in, and just like an oil rig, it pumps into our unconscious, and it's how it creates our world. So when we ourselves have the clarity to go into our unconscious, instead of becoming victims to our reactiveness, we start to actually get to know ourselves better. We start to really get to see who we really are. And that old side of us that was sort of wanted to kind of tell the other side, don't look there, begins to die off. It's a sense of naivete and almost a sense of innocence, but it's not a bad thing. We don't come out of it now completely lost or scarred, but we come out as wiser. And so for some, they have a hard time when they reach this place to come out of it. So in a way, they end up staying in this heavy place, in this dark place, and everything that they do begins to feed this place. When we are able to survive through this aspect of us, we come up to the other side with a new sense of regeneration. That is why in different religions and different cultures, when we survive this part of us, which is symbolized by water, the womb, right? When we are in the mother's womb, we are in a way in fluids, in liquid, in water. And so in the same way, when we get through this the sense of going into the water, and we come out, we are rebirthed, we're renewed. So when someone goes through a Kundalini awakening and they go through this part of it, that is when the biggest change happens. So sometimes you might meet someone who has had a physical change in their life, correct? Like they might have changed their hair or something. You say, oh, you look different. But then you meet other people in your life, or maybe you have already gone through this where you've changed nothing physically, but there's something deeper that has completely shifted about you. And what it is you have probably gone through this phase of Kundalini awakening. You've probably gone through this phase of completely going through these unconscious, the subconscious, and surviving it. Now, some people call this shadow work. There's different ways in which you can now heal this part of you. There are different ways in which you can complete this cycle, this step of Kundalini awakening, but it is truly the most essential aspect. Once you go through it and you get to the third chakra, or the third energy level, in the most simplified sense, when you get to that sense of clarity that you get from surviving your unconscious and your subconscious deeper desires and your inner monsters, so to speak, then when you get to the other side, there's no going back. The Kundalini does not go down from here. But if we do not go through this step, then the Kundalini can fall back into the root chakra where it lays asleep. But if we truly awakening and go through this step, then the Kundalini can continue to move up. So it does not go back down. It continues to move up, and then we can complete the cycle. Now, to complete the cycle of true Kundalini awakening is at times, for many, quite impossible. It's that place of achieving full enlightenment, and there have been select humans that have achieved this level of enlightenment, though for most this is quite difficult. However, it is possible if we honor the steps, if we honor these points of awakening, if we honor this cycle, the full cycle of awakening, and if we stay with it, so to speak, because in that experience and allowing ourselves to go through the experience, we can really end up with those jewels of wisdom. Thank you, and happy awakening.